Hi, it's David, back for another video. I'm going to make a video about things I'm afraid to talk about. Now, my last videos included stuff about the flat earth theory, and that's not something I'm afraid to talk about because I'm not really afraid of people ridiculing me. That's okay. It's okay for people to laugh at me. I'm not afraid of that. What I am afraid of, is I'm afraid to talk about things. Well, first of all, they're the first time I've talked about them in public. And also I worry about whether the wrong people might interpret it the wrong way and might want to do something to me. And so I'm a little bit afraid in that way. But I'm going to do it anyway because I think that it would feel good to come out with this and be understood by people, and I find people in the YouTube world get what a lot of things I say, and also I think I think I have a good message to tell people that people would want to hear. And anyway, when I discovered the flat earth theory back in May of last year, 2015, one of the things I noticed was that I had this feeling of relief. And what this relief had to do with was this feeling that there's nothing wrong with me after all. It's kind of like, when you're a little kid, when you learn, it takes a few years to get indoctrinated with ideas like how we live on a globe, we live in a solar system, there's this big bang, things are created by accident. It takes a few years to learn this, like our place in the world, about who we think we are, and where we came from. And, just imagine that all those years that it took to learn all that was condensed in a few hours. And, so as a kid, you'd get like really upset, like, oh, I'm not that important. I'm not, what I see I can't trust, I can't trust what I think or what I feel, and I need the experts to tell me what's what in the world. And just imagine that then you were told just a few hours later after absorbing all that, by the way, that's all wrong and that's all bullshit, and in other words, there's nothing wrong with me after all. And it's like, wow, what a relief. It's okay. It's okay. The way I see is okay. What I think is okay. I'm not invalid as a person. And so anyway, so there was this feeling of relief that I had that seemed to apply to many areas of my life that might seem unrelated to flat Earth, and so I'm going to tell you my story, and it might be something you relate to, even if my situation is different than yours. I am an entertainer. I'm a juggler. And I live in a town where there is an outdoor pedestrian mall where I do street performances. And so I would go down to the mall to do my juggling show regularly, almost every day. And when I would go to the mall, this outdoor mall, I would see people who looked very disturbed to me. They were kind of people who looked like they hadn't taken a bath in a long time, or I don't know whether they were homeless or whether they were drug dealers or whether they just got out of jail or were veterans of a war or whatever, but they looked just really disturbed. I mean, I wonder maybe if they came out of a mental hospital. And there were about 4 or 5 of these people that I would see regularly on the mall, walking. Some of them would walk up and down the mall, some of them would sit in one spot, and and when I would go to work to do my show and then come back, I would always see them, but I would never really think too much of them. I just had a story about they're disturbed people, and they pretty much left me alone in that they might walk by and yell at me, but they never really, got in my way of entertaining, and it was just sort of like I could coexist with them and it was okay. And anyway, so for years, they would be on the mall at least as regularly as I was. And, and I just never thought much of them. Just that I wanted to not deal with them. It wasn't what I wanted to do. I didn't want to deal with negative looking people. And so, anyway, so there's this situation on the mall. And back in 2004, one of my hobbies was growing magic mushrooms. And the reason why I would grow magic mushrooms was because when I would eat these psilocybin mushrooms, all social anxiety that I had with connecting with people would disappear, and it was really easy to connect with people. And it's like, especially like, let's say, a lot of there are some guys that they see a woman they're attracted to and they'll go and talk to her without hesitation. The mushrooms would make me be able to do that, just like these guys. And anyway, so I would go and eat mushrooms and go out in public. And it was really fun to have an ability to connect that I didn't have before. And so it was like this amazing adventure that I always looked forward to. And anyway, one time, as I was going on one of my mushroom trips, I walk into a coffee shop and I see one of these disturbed people that I would see every day on the mall. And instead of being like sort of an out of it type crazy person, he gave me this stare that was sort of like really direct, like he was not a bum or homeless person. He was on some mission, and he was as alert as anybody. And I left that coffee shop and continued with my trip. And anyway, the next day, or a couple days later, I'm eating lunch at a bar, and this guy that I saw, and he looks like this biker dude, the way he has like tattoos on his chest, he has a leather jacket, he has long hair and a beard and a mustache, badass, guy you like, when I look at him, my reaction is, whoa shit, like don't mess with this guy, like he's some sort of Hell's Angel or something. And anyway, he sits next to me and he says to me, David, a lot of people have ideas about me. They think I'm a bum or they think I'm a drug dealer, but these ideas are wrong, and I just want you to know that. And anyway, we have this weird interaction where he starts babbling to me just nonsense that I don't really want to repeat or don't remember too well. And then when I walk out of the bar and start setting up to do a show, he sits down on a bench and makes it really hard for me to start a show, because it's hard to attract a crowd when there's this disturbed looking guy who's my only audience member. People want to stay away from a guy like that. And anyway, the next time I go and trip on mushrooms, not only does he follow me around, but a lot of these other people that I would see regularly on the mall, these disturbed people, they would follow me and meet me around town in different locations. And then it became a regular thing where this biker dude would every Saturday afternoon at 3 o'clock, he would be on the bench trying to prevent me from getting an audience. And soon I had this problem where each of these people, there were 4 of them, each of these people would be stalking me at different locations for example, the one guy would be stalking me as I was doing a show on the mall. Another guy would be stalking me when I would be around town, like whether it's a dance place or a bar or whatever. Another guy would be stalking me when I was on my way to yoga class, which I would go to regularly. Another guy would be stalking me around my apartment. And so I was like being stalked, not only just for all day, in all situations, but I was being this went on for a really long time, like for years. And I told my friend Lisa, who's friends with the police department, people in the police department, and Lisa tells me that she says, David, they're there on the mall. There are people on the mall who are they're undercover, and nobody is supposed to know about them. And what they're doing is they're protecting me, they're protecting you, and they're protecting everybody. And and she told me about how in the 90s there was a problem where people would sell drugs on the mall. I mean, really horrible drugs like meth and heroin and coke. And anyway, so she tells me, again, she got really emotional. David, remember, they're there to protect you, they're there to protect me, they're there to protect everyone. And I thought, and then I figured out, okay, they were there helping the businesses because let's say someone's on the mall, doing an activity that isn't shopping and isn't going to a restaurant, they would interfere with that person and make them go somewhere else. And I thought, okay, I could accept that. There's people pay high rent, they don't want the business to be disturbed, or I could see like someone being upset that, they maybe their kid someone sold them a bad drug or whatever. I could see that. But I thought, why were they putting so much focus on me? Now, I did write a book. I wrote a book about short stories, and some of the stories contained stories about my explorations of psychedelics. And I thought, well, maybe that had to do with it. But it sort of seemed like I wondered, did somebody have a vendetta against me? Like maybe they work for some person who is out to get me or something. So I call up a private investigator and I tell this woman about the situation, and she knew that, yes, I know on the mall, they have this program where they have people act like street people, but they really work with law enforcement, and that they're there for another reason besides being on the street. And I told this woman, this private investigator, can you help me? I'm being stalked nonstop, and I wonder if I could be, I wonder if someone is behind it who has a vendetta against me. And she says, okay, David, I'll work on the case, and I'll see if I'll find out what I can. Anyway, I call her back after not hearing from her. I call her back 3 days later, and she tells me, David, I can't help you out. The federal government has ways of protecting their own people, and that's all I can tell you right now, and I cannot help you. So when I heard that, I felt really powerless. I mean, what the hell am I going to do? I didn't know what to do. And what made matters worse was like I had a problem where they would sometimes stalk. Let's say I'm eating at a restaurant and these stalkers would walk back and forth, and if I was at a restaurant with another person, I thought, I wonder if I'm on a terrorist watch list, and that I wonder if the people associating with me will also be on a terrorist watch list. So I had a problem, worrying about who I connect with. And furthermore, besides that, whenever I would tell people about it, people would think that I was crazy, and some of you probably do. But yeah, so anyway, I felt all alone, and the way I coped with the situation of like not only being attacked by a big organization, but having nobody to relate to about it, to talk about it with. It was, the way I dealt with it was I took on ideas that where I tried to agree with the people who were stalking me. It's like there was this thing called Stockholm Syndrome that I had heard of not too long ago, where people get on the side of the people who are attacking them. It's like the idea that it's an emotional phenomenon where it's like, if I'm on the side of the people who are attacking me, they can't hurt me. And I took on all these ideas, like maybe I was wrong to be eating mushrooms, and maybe the drug laws are there to protect the majority, or maybe the system that's in place is older and wiser than I am, and I just can't see that right now. Or maybe the book I wrote was spreading dangerous ideas, or maybe Lisa, my friend Lisa, was right when she said these people are there to protect you, me, and everyone. I mean, I took on all these ideas it's like trying to reduce suffering by getting on the side of the people attacking me, if that makes any sense. But anyway, when when I started studying, all these ideas I've learned on YouTube that challenged, things that I was taught when I was a little kid about where we live and how, so much of what we were taught is not true, and then began to get this relief that I talked about earlier, about the sense of there's nothing wrong with me after all, like there was nothing wrong with me when I was a kid and it looked to me like the earth was flat, and basically there's nothing wrong. This whole view, there's nothing wrong with me after all, affected the way I saw a lot of things, including this situation. And I suddenly saw it in this different way, where I realized there was really nothing wrong with me wanting to eat mushrooms and explore altered states of mind and explore different ways of connecting. And, there was nothing wrong with that. And I also got to see how, the whole system in place, how it's, meant to keep people trapped in a kind of prison, where you have like it's like people are divided into different groups. One group are prisoners, another group prison guards, one group are people who label other people as psychotic, another group of the people who are being labeled psychotic, one group is doing surveillance, the other group is being under surveillance. It's this way of controlling people by tying them up into one of these two groups. And it's like all this became like clear to me in a way that wasn't before. This whole view, there's nothing wrong with me after all. It's like a perspective, or a view that I think had a good impact, and it's something that I can't, even though they have this big organization, the people stalking me, they have this big organization where they have an infinite supply of money, they have tons of resources, meaning they have there are so many people willing to prostitute themselves by getting a full-time job stalking a juggler. I mean, and I'm just this individual, and but even though I felt powerless in that way, there was this internal shift where that I think helped me for the better, and it's something that I think is worth sharing with other people. It's worth communicating. I think if more people had this internal shift, I think things would change. The world would change for the better. And anyway, thank you so much for watching, and you can subscribe to my channel, And remember, it could be that there's nothing wrong with you after all. And thanks so much for watching. Namaste.